Hello and welcome to One Truth Able. This broadcast is going to be about the Vatican. I was just looking at a trailer, 2012, and in that trailer it showed the Vatican being struck and the Vatican being destroyed. So the question is it possible that sinister forces within the Vatican, through clergymen and evil men within the organizations and Freemasons, are they planning a flag attack on the Vatican? Are they letting us know, sinister forces are letting us know in this movie 2012 that they're planning a flag attack in the city of Rome, in the Vatican? And the beloved of the Lord are not even aware of this. I would like you to consider some information I'll be sharing with you that this might happen. But if it does happen, God sends us warnings and for precaution for His people. What would be the purpose of the Vatican and sinister forces within the Vatican organization destroying the Vatican and the Basilica? Well, I believe that if the Vatican does plan a flag attack in Rome, in the church, that they have a desire to move to Jerusalem, to make the church its new residence. I would like you to hear this Israeli journalist named Joel Beinerman. What he has to say is very interesting. First, you have to realize that for centuries the Vatican has attempted to obtain control of Jerusalem, which started with the Crusades. For them to convince the world that the Messiah they put on the world stage is going to be accepted as genuine, they need to perform this play in the old city. The story of this production is that this Messiah will merge the three monotheistic religions, usher in peace and harmony in the world, and solve the Middle East conflict. The location for this production will be in none other than the old city of Jerusalem. This so-called Messiah that will be proclaimed will be a false one, and it will insist that by having a world government, the United Nations, the world peace and harmony will be ushered in. This will be a lie and a fraud, but never mind. In our world, reality isn't important. Public perceptions are. The end result is the stripping of Israel's sovereignty as an independent nation, giving way to a regional bloc of nations in the Middle East. Israel will be pressured to accede to these demands by all world bodies and the superpowers on the claim that this is the only way to solve the Middle East conflict.
In order for the Jews to go along, they will convince them that with the Messiah having appeared for the Jews, it is time to start rebuilding the third temple, what they call Solomon's Temple. Make no mistake about it, the old city of Jerusalem, as well as most of the eastern half of the city, is what the Vatican is after.
I would like to share you some information by a man named Christian Pinto, and which has a radio broadcast, and some interesting thoughts and words he said regarding the destruction of Rome, if this situation is possible.
Malachi Morguer was nothing less than a saint. But despite his faith in the mercy of God, he was forced to bear witness to a terrifying vision of divine wrath, a biblical apocalypse that he predicted would occur in our time.
Malachi Morguer was the first Irish saint to be canonized by a pope. He was known to have some supernatural miracles associated with him. He's most famous now for his prophecy of the popes.
In 1139, Malachi made a pilgrimage to Rome to visit the Pope. While ascending one of the city's fabled 7 hills, he was struck by a revelation from God.
And the story goes that he fell into a trance all that night. He would mention these Latin phrases. De meditate lunae, flos florum, passer et nautua, de laboris solis.
Each one of these Latin phrases would match up to the reign of a particular pope. And in that vision, he saw 112 popes up until the tribulation time, till the end.
And according to St. Malachi's prediction, this end time, following the reign of the 112th Pope, is right around the corner.
We're at 111 now. Pope Benedict XVI is 111.
If Malachi's vision was true prophecy, there will be only one more pope to follow Benedict XVI, who turned 85 in 2012. In other words, our time may be running out. But why should we believe him? Malachi didn't just predict the number of popes before the end of the world. He also predicted who they would be with startling precision.
And what you find is an accuracy, I would say, that exceeds 80%, which I can tell you, that got me fascinated by these prophecies. And what makes it amazing is it gets more accurate as it gets to the end of the list.
In fact, some of the ones more recently are quite astonishing.
You have Benedict XV, who's called by Malachi Religio Depopulata, which means religion devastated or depopulated. In his reign, the Christian faith was decimated. 25 million people dying from World War I.
It's also the time of the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. And scholars say that 200 million left the Russian Orthodox Church to join the Communist Party.
Religion depopulated. After him comes the papal giant, John Paul II, who is called De Laboris Solis, which means the sun's labor through eclipse. He was born in 1920 on a total eclipse.
Then when he died, he was actually buried during a solar eclipse as well. Obviously, people can't manipulate eclipses, so apparently Malachi really did see a vision of the future, and you would have to be divinely inspired, I would say, for it to match that accurately. That seems to be a little more than coincidence.
Malachi's prophetic precision continues with the current Pope, Benedict XVI.
Number 111, the final numbered motto, and that is De Gloria Olivae, the glory of the olive, or from the glory of the olive. There is a group of Benedictines called the Olivetans. Their symbol is the olive branch.
The glory of the olive would be the highest ranking among them, and there he is. We thought, Malachi's correct again, and now there's only one more pope in the line. We are very close to the end of this prophecy.
Malachi's prophecy concludes with the succession of Pope Benedict by a man who will herald the end of the world. Malachi named this final pope Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman.
The prophecy for the 112th Pope is, in the extreme persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit Peter the Roman, who will nourish the sheep during many tribulations. And when they are finished, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people, the end. Now that's quite an ending, and it seems to intersect with biblical prophecy. The Malachi prophecy matches the book of Revelation in chapter 17 with the city of 7 hills being judged. That being the case, it seems to me that it's predicting the events of the book of Revelation. Now, if that's true, then during the next pope's reign, we will see the tribulation period predicted by the Bible.
Rome might perpetrate a ruse that would seemingly satisfy the Malachi prediction while serving other interests such as a permanent move to Jerusalem. On the Noise of Thunder radio podcast, award-winning filmmaker and researcher Christian Pinto speculated the following concerning the Malachian apocalypse that caught our attention. According to the Malachi prophecy, the next pope is Peter the Roman, and after that is supposedly the destruction of the city of Rome. That's why it says literally, Peter the Roman. His pontificate will end in the destruction of the city of Rome. God is ultimately going to defend his glory and his name, and the word of the Lord is going to prevail, and all things are going to happen as God sees fit, not necessarily as these Catholic prophecies are foretelling. However, it is possible that these things are being intentionally manipulated by the Vatican, by the Jesuits, because they have some plan in mind and they are going to use things to try to validate the faith of Romanism and the idea of their saints and so on. Could they possibly destroy the Vatican and from the ashes thereof, through that, try to create some ecumenical one world system in its place? Will they destroy the Vatican in conjunction with rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem and make that the new palace for the next pope or the one world leader? The prophecy has shown remarkable accuracy. Shouldn't we expect something to happen to Rome? However, even if elements conspiring within the Vatican believe they are manufacturing a fulfillment, it effectively still comes to pass. It seems in the realm of possibility that they would engineer a false attack as a rationale to move to Jerusalem. Even more, there is more surprising evidence to support it. We have examined Jesuit René Tabut's many derivations of the year 2012 for the arrival of Petrus Romanus from the Latin text.
The mysterious prophecy of the popes. Consider Tabut's justification for the destruction of Rome. This is obviously a judgment of God, but by what right will we see it as the last trial? No doubt the judgment in question follows the last persecution. But does it follow from this that the trial is similarly last? Doesn't the book of Revelation point to a long period of peace between the last persecution and the last judgment? Can we call this persecution the supreme burst of hell that will reach the city of saints before Christ breaks it by his sudden coming? And assuming there is still persecution after that mention in the conclusion of our prophecy, would this new test necessarily hit the Roman Church that would require him to be of faith that the true church will be judged through its center in Rome? Or could it be that with Rome destroyed, the papacy will seek a residence elsewhere? We believe that this change in the papal residence is precisely what the prophecy of the popes saw after the 111th Roman papacy. In the year 2012, we will cease to call Roman the Catholic Church. God's judgment will happen then. Far from putting an end to the history of the Church, it will mark the beginning of a new era.
One Truth Abel does not believe in date setting. Neither can I validate all this information, but I thought it was worthy to take note of this situation.
There's a verse in the book of Daniel 11 verse 45 that sparkled this train of thought that this might be likely to happen.
And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain, yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him.
Wow, that's a very interesting verse. In Daniel 11 verse 45, it says, he shall plant his tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. The glorious holy mountain is a symbol of Jerusalem or Mount Zion. In Bible prophecies, waters and seas represent nations and people. It seems that the Vatican will plant or settle between these two nations, the Arab nation and Israel nation. And you know the word plant, and he shall plant his tabernacles. The word plant also means to strike or to blow. And I wonder if it has a double meaning. Is the Vatican, and since force is going to strike the Vatican and then settle in Jerusalem?